What does the movie Avatar have in common with your garden? Probably not the blue alien people, but something much, much more impressive. Hey, I'm Brian with Next Level Gardening. If you're looking to join an online garden community that offers tips, tricks, and support to help you take your gardening to the next level, you're in the right place. Start now by clicking subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss anything. Now let's get growing. Did you know that the plants in your garden actually communicate with each other? Not with me personally. Until a few years ago, I had never heard of mycorrhiza and the important function that it had in the natural world and in our environment. Now, mycorrhiza is Greek for fungus root, and it's basically the symbiotic relationship between certain soil funguses and our plants, or plants in general. Mycorrhizal fungi actually colonize the root systems of plants, both inside the plant cell and outside. And they play a really important role in soil and plant health. Now, the workings of this relationship is actually very intricate and detailed, but put plainly, plants create carbohydrates through photosynthesis, and they pass some of those carbohydrates on to this mycorrhizal fungi. In return, the mycorrhiza actually increase the plant's water and nutrient intake levels. Looking a little closer, when these mycorrhizal fungi colonize the roots of our plants, they actually embed themselves into the plant's root structure and then send out their own root structure or filaments up to 200 times further than the actual plant roots themselves. That means they can search for the plant far and wide to bring in moisture, to bring in minerals, to bring in all the nutrients the plant needs. So if you think of a plant's root structure, let's say it's even a foot wide, and then think about the mycorrhizal fungi sending out their roots, filaments, 200 times that. That's 200 feet that your little tomato plant is being able to draw from. That's incredible. My yard's not even 200 feet, so my plants would be taking from the neighbors. Now, an entire book could be written on this subject, and science is still learning how far-reaching the potentials are, but what recent research has uncovered is that mycorrhizal networks can literally connect plants to one another, forming an internet of the soil. Plants in one part of your garden can actually send signals through this network when they're being attacked by pest and disease to warn other plants in the area that this is happening and to be prepared. In yesterday's video about tomatoes and getting them to increase their immune response, it's through hormones, right? So when plants receive this communication signal from other plants that are being attacked, they can pump up that immune system response to try and ward off the attack themselves. I mean, this is truly amazing stuff. I love the movie Avatar. I love the scenery, just the whole thing. And it turns out that Avatar is not as far-fetched as possibly believed. Maybe the blue people, I'll give you that. But if you remember, if you saw the movie, The Tree of Souls, there was a huge comparison between, and I'm not the only one that's seen it, the Tree of Souls and the mycorrhizal network of our world. In the movie, the Tree of Souls could communicate with trees around it, and the Na'vi, the blue people, they could actually tap into the memories of their ancestors through this network. I know that when my hands are in the soil, I feel more grounded and at peace than anywhere else. And it conjures up memories of, my grandparents farming and gardening. Coincidence? Probably. The point is, this fungal relationship, connection, and communication is something we need to nurture in our own little paradise. The good news is, unless your soil has been severely abused or contaminated, the mycorrhizal fungi is already there. However, you will find bags and buckets of it for sale on the internet, maybe even at your garden center. I've never purchased them because not all species or varieties of mycorrhizal fungi are compatible with all plants. So if you purchase one type of mycorrhiza and it is not compatible with either your environment or the plants that you're putting it on, you've wasted your money. So the best thing to do is nurture and grow the communities that are already in your soil. Mycorrhizal fungi thrive in soils with a lot of organic matter. So the answer to almost everything in the garden is make sure you add plenty of compost, well-rotted manure, because that is going to feed the soil life. We always talk about that. Now you're kind of figuring out what the soil life is. So the addition of mulch and compost is going to foster the development of these huge communities in your soil. Once or twice a year, adding 3 inches of mulch, organic mulch, preferably homemade compost if possible. That's ideal. Plus the addition throughout the season of organic fertilizers like fish, kelp, blood, bone, and humates. Those are all going to feed the soil life. Another way to protect the thousands of miles of filaments from the mycorrhizal fungi in your garden is to not dig, if possible. Digging in your soil severs the lines of communication along literally thousands of miles in just your own piece of property. Just imagine if someone came through your neighborhood with a tiller or a shovel the size of your house and just started smashing things up. Streets, telephone, internet cables, all communication, all travel would be severely damaged, if not completely stopped, until it was all repaired. The same thing is happening in your soil. The least it is disturbed, the more activity can take place on a daily basis. You never want to leave soil bare in the garden, even if it has mulch on it. So in the winter, things like winter rye or our good old friend hairy vetch, I said it, those will make it through most winter temperatures, and then in the spring can be mowed down, left right where they are as a green mulch. In mild winters or in the warmer months, cover crops growing in and around your vegetables can take care of some of those blank spots of soil. And basically what this is doing, and you can have things like crimson clover, herbs, companion flowers. I've done other videos on companion planting, but it's keeping a root system under the soil that does so much for the soil, but also gives the roots for these mycorrhizal fungi to colonize in. And another thing that hopefully is, common knowledge would be to not use chemical and synthetic fertilizers and pesticides. Those have salts and other, non-natural ingredients that get into the soil and diminish the life there. Even too much phosphorus in the soil could be harmful to the mycorrhizal fungi. Now, generally, if you're feeding your plants with an organic fertilizer, the 3 numbers on the bag, the middle one is phosphorus. Typically, all those numbers are going to be lower than in like a product like Miracle-Gro that is synthetic. And so if you're feeding your plants with organic fertilizers, you're not going to have to worry about overwhelming them with too much phosphorus or any other ingredient. But just Miracle-Gro like Super Bloom, that could tip the balance horribly in your soil against the soil life. So I've been promising this video for a while. I think it's so important. If you learned something, please give the video a thumbs up. Consider sharing it with a friend who might like to learn this as well. Subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you on Tuesday.